These giant agates and crystals are just some of the ones that we've found at Red Top Mountain, the most well-known dig site in Washington State. We've been there many times, and this time we'd like you to come along with us. The Forest Service roads are dusty, but passable with almost any car. We're at Red Top Mountain parking lot with Cameron and Elizabeth and myself. We're going on an adventure for agates. Leave the truck behind.
I'm here.
There's your first look of the lookout right there. I saw a guy that told me there was a bear that they had seen just before I went out hiking. So we know they're up here. We also know that there's a pack of wolves up here, 10-away wolf pack. Usually they won't bother people making this much noise, and if you're in a group, it won't be a problem. You'll never even see them. But I did run into a woman who said she was stalked when she was by herself. If you're by yourself, keep your head on a swivel. They're more afraid of you than you should be of them. At Red Top Mountain, if you dig in the dirt, the rocks are all covered in mud. You can't tell the agates from the plain rocks. One guide is that sharp-edged rocks such as these are usually not agates. However, roundish rocks like these may not be agates either. Check this one out. Nope. How about this one? Nope. Well, this one must be an agate. Nope, not it either. Okay, this one's gotta be an agate. Look how round this is. It's even got a crystal in it. Let's look inside. Nope. So we've hiked in all the way to the sign, the last sign that you'll see up here. If you want to go up to the lookout, you can go left. And if you want to go to the agates, you'll right. And that left trail is quite steep. There's switchbacks and all kinds of things that get you up to the top. Walking sticks are a good idea. We're just going to the agate bed, so that should not be a problem at all. You know my rule about sharp-edged rocks are not agates, so what about this one? Obviously, my rule is more of a guideline. You just can't tell when they're covered in mud.
Are we ready? Here we go.
Have to watch for low-flying aircraft. It's the steep part going down if you fall off the trail. So we'll try to pay attention to what we're doing here. Branch caught me. Okay, this is the wicked part right here. Yeah, that is a long ways down right there. Yeah, it's not as bad as I remember it though. It's been 5 years since I've been up here. When I was just 8, my dad brought me, my mom, and my 3 siblings here. My great-uncle Jay had told him to keep digging until he reached a specific layer to find the agates. My dad was carrying just this tiny little army shovel, and I still have that shovel today, even though it's older than I am. I remember my dad finding many, many agates. We had no bucket, so my dad had us roll up the front of our t-shirts, and he placed a row of the round stones across each of our bellies. I was terrified of what would happen along the dangerous part of the trail, but those rocks all made it back to the car. Sadly, I never saw one cut. Here are a pile of rocks that are all keepers. You can see the round shapes and the dents in them that are the clues. With mud on these, though, you won't be able to know if they're crystals or agates, or duds. I'll show some of them cut later in this video. The whole 10-away ridge, which we're on, is it's all basalt, and it's between between the highway and the Stewart Mountain Range, which is really big. All of these rocks are agates or crystals. As you can see, it would be best if each person digging keeps a spray bottle handy. If not, you'll bring home a lot of duds like I have. I refer to this one's shape as a clamshell. You'll see a lot of these at Red Top Mountain.
Still there?
Barely.
I don't think I knew the name of it.
Blue Creek Trail?
Yeah.
That's when we sat down on the road. 64.2, name of the trail. This is the last steep part. Altitude's getting me a bit. How you doing?
Cameron?
I'm doing all right. I'm definitely out of shape, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're with the right group.
Yeah, for sure. The good news is the bugs aren't bad or they'd be all over us right now. I was up at Red Top once where I estimate there were 40 bugs per cubic foot. They were so thick you couldn't see through them. It was just crazy. We like to pretend it's our secret spot, even though
See how many people left now.
there's like a backhoe in there and everything else. Okay, I'm hot. It's about 85 up here today. Are we stopping?
I am. Out of breath.
Well, that was the steep part. So the rest of it's not bad. It's not bad. I have been referring to agates only, but there are an equal number of crystals to find. A lot of rocks have both, like this one. It has a small band of agate surrounding the center's quartz crystals. Here's what it looks like cut, with the agate bands now clearly visible. That agate on the outside with a center layer of crystals is present in many of the geode fragments that you can find at Red Top Mountain. This last one is more than half of a full geode. This one is 95% crystal with just a little bit of rock on the other side. This is the first glimpse of the agate bed. The signs have long been gone. It used to say Red Top agate beds on one of them. And the other was all the usual stuff about no fires when it's hot and watch out for bears, stuff like that. The slope facing toward us is where the old holes were. That was over 50 years ago. This entire hillside was dug up. It looked like a bunch of foxholes from a war zone. So if you dug there, most likely you're going to hit somebody else's hole and just be digging their tailings. Looks like the Forest Service filled it in. Most people now go beyond it, up the trail. This is the only steep part. The rest is flat. It's your Antenaway Ridge. Up there further on the right side, there's some basalt cliffs. And if you're a hard rock guy, you can split the basalt and find some agates in it. That's like the hardest work possible. And on the left side, in the trees, in the shade, is where there you'll see a lot of holes and people are digging in there.
Like us.
Yes.
Yeah. Shade sounds good.
I'm on that boat,
Yeah.
From here, you can see the lookout. In many cases, it's hard to see where the agate stops and the crystals start. This colorless chalcedony is nevertheless banded, so it's still referred to as agate. Later, you'll see agates with much more color. When you find a big nodule, you often won't know what's inside until you cut it open. In this case, I cut it off-center on purpose, and I'm glad I did because the thin side reveals the crystal structure spectacularly. Here's another one with a similar internal crystal structure and very little agate around the outside edge. And here's yet another goose egg with more agate banding, but it's colorless this time. That's Mount Rainier off in the distance. Oh, this whole hill up here used to be in the shade. Maybe it's a time of day thing. Well, let's start prospecting. It's just beautiful up here. It's about 80 degrees. We've been digging about 2 hours, I think, but mostly we've been sitting and enjoying the view. You get quite a view down there off through the trees. Bugs are not bad. Just a few houseflies, but nothing bad. And here's somebody else's hole. It's not mine. They dug a lot. So imagine you're up at Red Top and you find one this big. It probably weighs about 4 or 5 pounds. It's one of my favorites. It's got a lot of interest inside. Like a lot of rocks, this one has a bonus bubble on the side that I went ahead and polished. This is probably Elizabeth's favorite one. So this is a really nice one. It's got a lot of color to it. And because of the fractures, you wouldn't cut it anywhere near that. Like you wouldn't take a slice off because the fractures will, they'll just break apart when you cut it too thin. So just leave it as a whole rock and it stays blue. It will look nice on the shelf. This big rock has a curved front surface that I polished. Subscribe and click the bell to get a notification of a video that shows why it was done this way. Because this one has a similar color and the same size hole as the previous rock, You may think that it's just the other half. However, it was a totally separate find. Large agates like these are not the norm at Red Top Mountain. Consider yourself lucky if you find one. One can also find clam-shaped geodes at Red Top. The first one of those I found was on a different trip. I arrived when someone else was leaving, and they kindly offered me their 3-foot deep hole. It turned out, though, it was too small in diameter for me, and now I had to fill it in. In frustration, I smashed a plain old rock next to me, only to have its crystals brightly sparkle in the sun. He didn't know it was a geode, and neither did I, until I broke it open. Here is a large clam-shaped rock. This one is solid quartz crystal inside. Round nodules form in basalt gas bubbles. When the basalt is under stress, it may crack. The crack will occur at the weakest point of the basalt, which runs through the former gas bubbles. It seems this could occur before or after the nodule is formed. Either way, the nodule will appear as two unaligned halves, such as these. If a second shear occurs, the nodule may be sliced like a lime. These slices are found more frequently at Red Top than you would expect. Here's another slice that's quite a bit thicker. This was not cut by me, just polished. This slice is so thick it resembles a barrel. Both ends were missing when I found it. One Saturday at Red Top, I was trying to reproduce my dad's success. I dug a whopper of a hole 5 feet deep, but hadn't found a single agate. About then, a 35-year-old man walked up with his 3-year-old daughter in tow. The man had only a standard garden shovel, no bucket. It was his first trip to Red Top, and he asked me where to dig, and I showed him a spot near me. I was thinking he'd have no chance to find agates while babysitting. He reminded me of my dad so long ago. The man asked me what to look for. Red Top rocks are covered in red dirt or mud, so it's hard to separate out the agates from the duds. I told him straight edge rocks are unlikely to be agates and look for round rocks, for they are sometimes agates but more commonly solid quartz nodules. After about 15 minutes, he had only dug a tiny hole, but stopped and made his way over to me. He handed me a perfect egg-sized rock. "Is this one?" he asked. Now, given my strikeout, it was hard to say, but I did. Yes, indeed, it is. The man beamed in delight, and that smile made me happy too. The man slipped it into his pocket and left with his daughter. Many crystals at Red Top Mountain have a yellow stain. I tried soaking these in muriatic acid, but it had little effect. Please let me know in the comments if you know what causes them to be yellow, or how to remove the yellow completely. That would be nice. I'd love to see these looking better. Hey, that's not an agate. How'd that get in there? Oh, Red Top's so difficult to tell. Here's a series of 8 quick clips to show you what agate chunks can look like at Red Top Mountain. We are doing this while moving the entire lifetime collection outside for better lighting, where I'll be answering some of the questions you may have. At Red Top Mountain, you sometimes find bluish agates like these. You'll think that they might be an Ellensburg blue agate, but I can assure you they are not. It's really obvious only when you compare them to an Ellensburg blue agate. And then you see, oh, they aren't blue at all compared to a true Ellensburg blue. You take one that's bluish like this, and it's a typical nodule. And I want to polish both sides and put it in a ring or something. And so you'll be tempted to take off the outside skin. And when you do that, you lose all of the blue. That's one of the ways you can tell it's not an Ellensburg blue agate, because the skin is critical to producing the blue color. You might want to know how I know that. I've ruined at least 4 really nice nodules. I'm talking this size. And I peeled off the outside, and imagine my disappointment when they went from being dark blue to just being totally clear. What I haven't talked about is the presence of inclusions in a lot of these rocks. I used to hate inclusions, thinking that they ruined the rock, but actually sometimes they make the rock. Here's a great example. It looks like every other nodule that you find out at Red Top, and there's nothing special from the outside, but when you open it up, you find the inclusion that really makes this rock, and a little bit of jasper, I believe, that's in the center, along with the agate at the top. So very scalloped, very original. Here's another example where the inclusion is a staining of yellow, but it makes it look like this is a lemon with all the yellow in it. In fact, we have another one around that looks just like a lemon. It's just funny because it's perfectly round. It looks like it cut a lemon in half. But it's the inclusions that makes these. This is so unique compared to like all of these that have, just kind of crystals without any special thing to them. So it's the inclusions that makes them special. Here's another example of an agate that has a lot of dark and white together. And I just love the banding and the special way this looks. But I didn't find a lot of these. These are the kind of things that make the trip special. And sometimes we'd find something special and sometimes we wouldn't. Now here's another inclusion. And what would be, you would look at this and you would think, oh, that's a nice little tiny little rock. And those dots really make this. Otherwise, it's just a little blue-gray agate, nothing really special. But it kind of looks like islands or maybe a coconut with the 3 dots or something like that, which I think is pretty cool for such a little rock. You might consider this an inclusion, but I don't. It's got all kinds of white and stuff in it that it makes it special. It's not just pure agate. The white is crystal, and it's got a hollow center to it, which adds a lot of interest. I really like the one on the right where it's got just enough something different to draw your attention before you see the banding. This is another example of how the inclusion makes the rock look prettier. It almost looks like there's wood growing on the bottom of the rock. It's pretty cool the way the banding of the inclusion occurred. You know, my favorite inclusion of everything that I found at Red Top Mountain is the fact that many of these agates are surrounded by a rim of iron that shines silver. Here is the best example of that. In this rock, when you look closely, you can see there's a silver band all the way around. Well, not all the way, but it's kind of intermittent. Silver and then not silver and then more silver. And it's a ring of iron, and it's the iron in the ground there that makes it red for Red Top Mountain. And so anyway, this is a very special rock to me because of the presence of iron you can see so well. Sometimes you get something really special like this one. And what's special about this, you go, well, John, it's just a blue-gray agate with a big hole in it. But on the back side, it's pure iron. And you should be able to see that shiny bit of silver on the back. The entire back is silver from the iron that happened to be around the rock. This one's completely surrounded by iron. It's a little hard to see. It's not, I don't think it's as pure of iron, but it sure does reflect differently than everything else. If you dug up this rock, and it's covered in mud, you would just assume that there was nothing good inside. It's just an odd-shaped rock. Check this out. Wow, it's just gorgeous. So it's got lots of banding in it. This part on the back is iron, and it's also here and here. Basically, it's all the way around the outside. And I didn't know that agates could form in the presence of iron like this. For me, of the many times I've found this iron presence only at Red Top Mountain. So that's pretty cool. These are the outside of nodules. You can see there's just a slight curvature here. So you can imagine how big this nodule must have been. It was probably huge, and there's just one fragment left for me to find. So imagine these two rocks were covered in dirt. and you can't actually see the agate that's shown here. This was after it was washed off, but you can see the roughness, and you kind of wouldn't guess that that's an agate because it's just so rough. The same thing's true with this one. And I'm hoping that both of these end up being very pretty. You can see right here, there's an outside edge of agate, and then there's something else different in the middle. It might be just rings, or it might be crystal in there. It looks like the center is agate rather than crystal, so I'm looking forward to cutting this one. I just haven't gotten to all of them. This one, we're covered in dirt. You'd never guess that it was an agate, because there's nothing that indicates it except maybe this little pocket of quartz. And for some reason, we must have seen it or sprayed it or something. And this is what you're going to find inside. Here's another agate that, it's an odd-shaped rock. And when you open up this one, it's got really nice crystal inside. By now, you must have seen something you liked. Please help the channel by clicking the like button and leaving a comment about your favorite part. We'd love to hear from you.